All right. So you will need a TVM solver app ready, either the TI-84, or you can go to a fncalculator.com, or you can find a TVM solver online somewhere. So here are our formulas that we're going to be looking at, and you need to be familiar with in this part here, with today dealing with home mortgages and tomorrow dealing with car loans and leases. Amount finance, when we talk about the amount that you finance, okay, that is the cash price for whatever you're buying minus a down payment. Sometimes when you buy a big purchase item, like a car or a house especially, they're going to make you pay a down payment on that house. They're not just going to give you a loan for the full amount of that house. You're going to have to put some money down. Traditionally with a house, they want you to put 20% down of the value of the house. So if I buy a $100,000 house, they're going to want me to put down 20% or $20,000. Okay. So the amount I will finance is the cash price, which is $100,000 minus what I put down. Let me write this down here. So let's say I buy a house and that the price of that house is $100,000. They make me put down 20%, so I put down $20,000. That means the amount financed that I'm taking a loan out for. This is what your loan principal is, $80,000. That's how much you're financing. Okay, how much the bank is going to loan to you to buy this house, $80,000. So that's what we mean by amount finance. You take your cash price minus your down payment. Next one is a total of all payments. A total of all payments. So let's say, you know, when you buy your house or you buy a car or whatever, you take your payment. Say your monthly payment is $500. Okay, so you calculate it, it's $500. So to get the total of all payments, kind of like what it says, you take the number of payments. All right, so let's say you're going to do this for 5 years. You're paying $500 for 5 years. Well, the number of payments would be 5 times 12 or 60 payments at your times your monthly payment. So let's say you paid $500 60 times. That would be the total of all payments. The next one you need to be familiar with is total finance charge. What is the total finance charge? This is extra money you paid or the interest you paid on that loan. Okay. So whenever you take out a loan here, like for instance up here in this example here, I took out a loan for $80,000. I'm going to pay the bank back $80,000. But I'm also have to pay them back the interest that goes with it as well. That is the total that's the finance charge there. Okay, how much are they going to charge me to take out that $80,000? Are they going to charge me $500? Are they going to charge me $5,000 to take out $80,000? How much are they going to charge me? Well, to figure that out, you take your total of all payments, right? Which is what you found right here, and minus the amount financed, because they gave you that money. So let's say my total of all payments was $93,000. I calculated is $93,000 minus the amount financed. So let's say I was financing that $80,000. Then this is how much the bank charged me for the finances. So they charged me $13,000 in finance charge. That was the interest they collected from me, because the bank is in it to make money, okay? And they're making money off you by the interest, charging you interest for using that money. They're not going to give you $80,000 and just pay me back $80,000, because they're not. It's nothing. It's not worth it to them to do that. Okay, they're not making any money, and they're not going to stay in business, not be able to feed the family and all that. So they're going to charge you interest, and so that's called the finance charge. And you calculate that by taking the sum of all the money you paid them minus what they gave you. And then figure out, lastly, the total paid here. And so when you buy a house, to figure out what you paid for the house, you take the total of all payments plus your down payment. So you take this total of all payments here, okay, whatever you did, let's say it was $93,000 plus whatever your down payment was. So whenever you do buy a house, if you don't buy the house for cash, okay, and you have to finance it, and let's say you bought that $100,000 house here, it's not going to cost you $100,000 if you finance it. If you finance, it's going to cost you more, because you have to pay the total finance charge. So these are just 4 formulas that you need to be familiar with. There'll be some questions that come up that have to deal with it. It'll have on the homework. You'll have, hey, what is the amount financed? What's the total amount, total of all payments? What's that? What's the total finance charge? And then finally, what was the total pay? So those are the questions that they'll be asking you. All right, so be familiar with these formulas. All right, let's move on and look at a scenario here. And so here's our first scenario. Sarah wants to purchase a new house priced at $159,000. Sarah's bank has approved her for a 30-year mortgage, meaning it's going to take her 30 years to pay this off loan, and they're going to charge her 4.25% interest rate. So Sarah's first option is to make a down payment. If this is the case, calculate the following. Oh, I'm sorry. Sarah's first option is to not make a down payment. If this is the case, calculate the following. What amount must Sarah finance to the bank? So if she does not make a down payment on this house, to calculate the amount Sarah must finance through the bank here. So, so she's purchasing a house at $159,000. Sarah's bank has approved for her 30-year note here for 4.25%. So the amount Sarah must finance, if she doesn't make a down payment, she's not putting anything, she's going to finance the whole thing then. You can even look back at this part here. The amount financed is the cash price, your cash price, minus the down payment. The amount financed is equal to the cash price all right, come on. So the cash price for this house is $159,000. Minus her down payment, she down pays nothing. So the amount she's going to have to finance is this whole thing, $159,000. That's a long way to say the whole thing. All right. So she's financing the whole thing. Let's calculate Sarah's monthly payment for her 30-year note. Okay, she's trying to budget herself. Okay, well, if I buy this house for $159,000, how much will my monthly payment? Will I be able to afford the monthly payments here? So she's going to do a 30-year note. So we're going to, for capital N, we'll do 30 times 12. 30 times 12 gives you 360 payments, 360 months. She's going to finance this for. Her interest rate, note here, is 4.25%. 4.25%. The present value of her loan is the amount she's financing. So the present value of her loan, and this is going to be positive to her. Remember, we usually put it as a negative. That's if you pay it. Well, she's getting $159,000. You have to think about it this way. She's getting that $159,000 to buy the house. So the bank is giving her $159,000. That's positive to you. Congratulations. All right, we're trying to figure out the payment here. The future value of her loan, we want it to be $0. Okay, we're trying to pay the whole thing off. And obviously we're going to do this compounding 12 times a month, making payments 12 times a month. So there's our TVM solver right there. So we'll put that into the calculator here. Let's see here, 30. Oh, sorry, quit out of that. Go to my apps, finance, TVM solver. This is going to be good for you to know, especially when you're trying to buy a house, trying to figure out your payments for something. So we're going to do a 30-year payment here. So 360 payments at 4.25% interest. And we're buying the house for $159,000. We're trying to figure out the payment, so we'll skip that for now. The future value we want it to be 0 and 1212, and we'll put it at the end. So here we go. The future value, alpha, enter. Not the future value. I'm sorry, this is 0. I apologize. The payment here, alpha, enter. There it is. $782.18. There is her payment there, $782.18. Now, notice here it came out as a negative. Why is it a negative? Because you have to pay that money now. Okay, the $159,000 was a positive. The bank paid that for you, but you have to pay $782.18. Okay, so that's the first goal here. If you're buying something, trying to figure out your monthly payments, whether it's a house, and tomorrow we'll look at buying a car. Today we're just looking at a house. And you can do this online. You can, I think the interest rate are about like that right now, about 4.25%. Typically people buy a house on a 30-year mortgage, okay, meaning they're going to take 30 years to pay off their house. So you can go with those two informations, you can go look at the house prices right now and determine how much it's going to cost you to buy that house, or what your payments would have to be. Now, what is the total of all her payments now? Okay, so when she pays off her loan, she's not just paying, she's just not paying $159,000. She's going to be paying more to the bank, because the bank is going to charge her some a finance cost. So what is the total of all her payments here? So remember, her payments were the PMT. So this is equal to, let me go back here for a second and show you the formula here. So for the total of all payments, we take the number of payments. So remember how many payments she's making. 360 payments, right? Times her monthly payment. That's how we do it here. So this is equal to the number of payments. That's actually capital N there, which is 360 times her payments, PMT. I'm going to put it this way. I'm going to be multiplying those two. Capital N being 360. That's how many times she's going to pay the payment of $782.18. let's see how much she's going to have to pay the bank. Oh, let's calculate that. $360 times 782.18. There it is, $281,584.80. It's a lot. Hopefully, I don't know if you see that, but note here, she's buying the house for $159,000, but at the end of the day, she's really going to be spending $281,000. She's really buying the house for $281,000 because there's another almost more than she's paying $100,000. It looks like in interest for the house. And so that actually leads us into our next question. What is the total finance cost? Okay, because she only took out a loan for $159,000, but she paid the bank $281,000. So how much did the bank charge her for that loan there? So we're going to, I'm going to change the color here up a little bit. And so to figure out that total finance cost, we take our total cost. This is going to be equal to the total cost, or sorry, total of all payments minus the amount financed. So the total of all of her payments is from question C, $281,584.80. And we're going to subtract here the amount that the bank gave her. How much did the bank give her for this? So $159,000. The bank gave her $159,000. She paid the bank $281,000. And so the bank ended up charging her. Let's calculate that out here. Let's just take that and subtract here $159,000. $122,584.80. That's how much the bank charged her for taking out a loan for $159,000. That's how the bank makes their money. Notice they made $100,000 off of this one person just for borrowing some money. And I want you to also note here, you know, how much interest you are paying here when you take out a loan for a house. You're paying quite a bit of interest to the bank. So that's good to know. And so finally here, what is the total cost of the house in this option? If she makes no down payment, what was the total cost of her buying this $159,000 a house? So we can go back to the formulas if you need it for the total paid, total of all payments plus a down payment. Remember, she made $0 in her down payment there. So when we do this here, it'd be kind of simple. And so this is equal to really the total of all of her payments, which is $281,584.80. That's it. That's what she paid for the house. She bought the house at $159,000, but she ended up paying $281,000 for that house. That's with the interest. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what the future might hold for you as you venture into college and start getting a job and start wanting to buy your own place, your own house. What it's going to look like or take, or the process of a mortgage or loan. And this is pretty accurate to something that's going on today. All right, but let's look at the next part here. Sarah wants to purchase that house, same 30-year note, and a 4.25% interest rate, same rate, but this time she's going to have to pay, or the other option, Sarah makes a 20% down payment to avoid a PMI. This is a principal mortgage insurance fees. If this is the case, calculate the following here. So oftentimes, I think I mentioned this before, but when you go buy a house, they're going to require you to put 20% down. Okay, they're not just going to give you the loan for nothing down. They're going to require you to put 20% down, and then they will give you your loan. If you don't put 20% down, then they charge you a PMI. And so, for instance, in my case, when I bought my house, I didn't quite have the 20,000 or the 20%. I think me and my wife, we put down like 17%, and so we had to pay a PMI fee, a principal mortgage insurance fee, for about 2 years until our principal was at 20%. Okay, until we got up to 20%. So to avoid that, she's going to put 20% down. So what amount must Sarah now finance through the bank? So she's not financing the whole thing anymore, like an example, the first example, where she financed the whole thing at $159,000. In this case, the amount financed is going to be equal to $159,000, right? That's how much his home costs, minus her down payment. So the question is, what is her down payment? That's what I need to kind of figure out before I answer this question. So I'm going to do it up right here. So her down payment is 20%. So we're going to put 20% of the whole thing. So we're going to take 159,000 and multiply that by 0.2. We want 20% of it. So let's calculate that out. $31,800. So there's her down payment. It's 20% of the house value. What was that again? $31,800. $31,800. That's how much her down payment is. And so the amount she's going to finance is that $159,000 minus what she's going to put down, which is $31,800. And so in this case here, if I take 159 minus 31,800, she's going to be financing 127,200. And so with that said, let's calculate her monthly payments now. We know the interest is at 4.25. She's going to be paying here 30-year note times 12, which is 360. Her present value, let's get into her future value, we want it to be 0. And P over Y, C over Y is 12. Now her present value will now be $127,200, the amount she's financing. Instead of the $159,000, now it's $127,200. So what will her payments down? They should be lower. They ought to be lower. So let's figure that out. So we have 360, 4.25% interest. Her present value has changed. Now it's 127,200. And future value is 0, 12 and 12. So let's calculate her payment now. Alpha, enter for PMT. Now her payment has dropped about $100, $125.74, 75 cents. $625.75. Hey, that's great. $100 cheaper. So now let's revisit here and kind of compare. We're really kind of comparing no down payment versus a down payment here. So what is the total of all her payments again? So the total of all payments. So she's going to be paying this money for 360 times. She's going to pay $625.75, right? 360 payments of $625. Let's calculate that in the calculator. And you get 225,270. Let's see what the how many cents I have. That's it. So $225,270. So if you compare it to the last one was $281,000. Okay, when she made no prime payment, she's paying back. She had to finance more, and the total she pays back is about $50,000 more dollars, $60,000 almost. So what is the total finance cost? So to get the total finance cost, we take the total of all payments. The total of all payments, 225,270 minus what they gave me. So they gave me 127,200. Okay, not the cash price for the house, but minus what they gave you. So if I calculate that out, so 225, 270 is what I paid the bank. The bank gave me 127,200, and there it is, $98,070. So that's how much the bank charged you for financing, or for them giving you $127,000. Say, hey, I'll give you $127,000, but in return, you're going to pay me $98,000 for that. Okay, that's how that operates. Kind of like when you go buy a hamburger. Yeah, I'll give you this hamburger that costs me, $5 to make, and I'll sell it to you for $15. Okay, and we buy it. There's the same thing going on, although it's not some kind of product like a hamburger, or a piece of clothing, or some material thing. but you're doing the same thing with some money. All right, what is the total cost of the house in this option? So how much did I fully paid for this house? Well, to get that, the total cost, just refer back to those things, is equal to the total of all payments, which is $225,270. That's how much I paid the bank, plus the down payment. What was the down payment in this case? $31,800. And so if I add those two together, $257,070. Make sure that's right. So now you can kind of compare and contrast what it's like when you make a down payment or don't make a down payment. If you don't make the down payment, like in the first example, she paid $281,000 for that house. If you do make a down payment, now the price of the house has dropped $30,000. A little less than that, but approximately that much. So think about that as you take out a mortgage or you take out a loan for student loans or for financing cars, which we'll look at tomorrow. You want to put money down up front, because if you don't, you're just going to pay for it at the end. Okay, I know it seems like, oh man, I got to pay more money here, but you're actually saving money. You have to think about it in that mindset here. You know, putting more money down is going to save you money in the long run. Whereas if you don't put a lot of money down, okay, sometimes that's the gimmick. Oh, we don't have to put so much money down right now, but they're gonna get you at the end because you're gonna be paying more interest money. So think about that as you're taking out loans and for student loans and for car leases, I'm sure, and when you buy your house. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. We'll stop right there. Tomorrow, we'll jump into car loans and lease payments. This is what might interest you right now as you're trying to figure out, well, how am I going to buy a car so I can get to college or where to work or whatever you're doing. All right, so let us look real quick at the Canvas, and I want us to look at the homework just for just a bit, and then I'll give you the last 30 minutes to work on this assignment. All right, so Unit 6, Day 1 here, mortgage loan payments. So you have this scenario. Jeff wants to purchase a new condominium, which is a house, for $199,000. A condominium versus a house. A condominium is usually like more of a hotel kind of thing. A lot of times they're in skyscrapers or big buildings, and they have like hotel features, like a community pool or you know, workout facilities and other things of that nature, like an apartment. So Jeff's bank has approved him for a 30-year mortgage loan at 4.5% interest rate. So Jeff's first option, not to make a down payment. Let's calculate that. Jeff's second option is to put 20% down, just like we did in our work, and I want you to calculate that, just like we did in our notes. All right, and then the next scenario, Brenda wants to purchase a single-family home priced at $249,000. Brenda's bank has approved her for two mortgage loans, a 30-year note and a 15-year note. So now you get to look at both of these, a 30-year mortgage versus a 15-year mortgage. So a 30-year mortgage says, hey, you're going to pay this back within 30 years. In 30 years. A 15-year note says you're going to pay it back in 15 years. So we're going to look at those. Is there a big difference here in there. Are you going to be able to save money by going from a 30 to a 15-year note instead? Will you be able to save money? So I want you to calculate her finance with a 30-year note at 3.75 or a 15-year note at 3%. Okay, and see what that looks like. All right, this is due tomorrow. If you get it turned in today, I'll give you extra credit, obviously. 10 extra points for getting it